Jay here for Stretford Paddock. Just about. Great start. And this is Stretford Paddock Live. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Joe Smith. How are we doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate.
I'm slightly less good, actually, because Leicester are beating Chelsea 2-0, which I never thought I'd care about. But Leicester go top of the league if they win this.
I didn't even realise that was a thing. I didn't even realise that could happen tonight.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a crazy season. And yeah, Leicester top of the league and Frank Lampard under a bit of pressure. But anyone cares, we'll keep you posted on that. But we've got loads of good stuff coming up. We'll give you an update on the Upamecano latest, on the Facundo Medina.
Yeah.
Little bit of news on him. Also, what's going on with a lad called Jadon Sanchez. Have you heard of him?
Quite a big update, really, on the Jadon Sancho front. So that's quite exciting. Got that to look forward to as well.
Big update, mate.
Yeah.
Proper big.
Yeah, proper big.
And also on the outgoings, what's happening with Jesse? What's happening with Odion? What's happening with anyone else? Is anyone else going anywhere?
Yeah.
Because we know that Ollie sort of alluded to it in his press conference today about being happy to let one or two players go. We'll also have some quotes from the press conference from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today. He was talking about Diallo and also bizarrely, and I do use the word bizarrely when it comes to this one, defending Bruno Fernandes. You know, because he needs defending because he's so crap.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll get straight into it. The first one we'll talk about is the Dayot Upamecano latest. Yeah. Now, what's happened here? I know, sort of, there's been these rumours and stories and reports that Ollie wanted him in the summer. Didn't look like that was going to happen. So we're going to go again next summer. January's a non-starter, so we'll go in the summer. Now, Upamecano was apparently on a short list of defenders, centre-backs that United were looking at, one of whom was David Alaba. Now, he's, according to Fabrizio Romano, who is pretty reliable, Alaba has more or less agreed to go to Real Madrid. Romano tweeted, David Alaba's dream was always to play for Real Madrid. The pre-contract is almost ready and agreed since the first days of January when Real were leading the race. So there you can see there's a graphic on there. It also says that the Scousers made a bid for him a couple of weeks ago, but
his dream is called Real Madrid, Jay.
I mean, to be fair,
you name all your dreams.
Merseyside, Madrid.
Yeah, where would you rather live?
Do you know what I mean? I'd rather live in Mansfield than Merseyside, to be honest.
Well, what's wrong with Mansfield?
Nothing.
Right.
I'd rather live there than Merseyside.
Mansfield Road leads all the way to Worksop, so get over yourself.
I'd rather live in Basra.
Right.
Anyway.
Go on.
So, this looks like it's sort of clearing out some of the players that we have been linked with. There was even a rumour we were linked with Sergio Ramos the other day. It was a load of nonsense, but that's already been poo-pooed.
Yeah.
It looks like Dayot Upamecano is the number one priority.
Yes.
And in the summer, Manchester United are going to go all out for him. We asked Fabrizio Romano about this when we had him on the Tier 1 Transfer podcast about Upamecano, and he said, we wouldn't be surprised at all if United went in for him. The only issue is other clubs are in for him as well. Looks like Liverpool could be interested. Chelsea, who were showing tonight, they could probably do another defender. So United could end up in a bit of a bidding war, which worries me slightly because, especially when you get the likes of Chelsea involved, they've got like endless pockets, and we've got the Glazers.
Upamecano's got this whole release clause surrounding him, hasn't there? There's rumours of release clause, and there's people saying no, that's gone now, and that it comes back in January 2020, summer 2021. There's all sorts going on. Alaba for me is a big mess for United. And obviously,
did you see that happening?
I didn't see it happening necessarily, but he would be perfect, or certainly would have been perfect before we signed Tellers, because he can play left back, he can play defensive midfield, he can play centre back. 3 positions which I still think aren't our strongest positions. But he would have been excellent. But again, he's coming to the end of his contract, so essentially he gets the pick of where he wants to go. Real Madrid are clearly in for him. He's got a dream, and it's called Real Madrid, which I like that phrase. And sometimes I think sort of people who English isn't their first language put things in a way that's nicer and slightly more poetic than people are English, because I like the idea that his dream is called Real Madrid.
My dream is called Real
Madrid. Darling,
I've
awoken. I've had a dream, and it's called Real Madrid.
It's not like I fancy a move to Madrid.
No, you wouldn't phrase it like that as an English person, but I like it even better. So he's had a dream, it's called Real Madrid. Fair enough, we can't really argue with that. Real Madrid are a big team. They won La Liga last season. They won 4 Champions Leagues in 5 years, 3 in a row. So they're a top team, fair enough. Upamecano, on the other hand, I fancy us to get him. If we want him, I fancy us to get him. We said it the other day. You see comments and you see tweets and you see newspaper articles, United balking at 70 million for Jack Grealish, 80 million, whatever it is. We spend that on players.
Yeah.
We spend that on Maguire. We spend that on Pogba. We spend that on Lukaku. We spend that on Di Maria. Like, We spent 50 million on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. We spent 50 million on Fred. Players who, very much unknown players in world terms. You think we're not going to spend 65 million on Upamecano? Like, you think we're not going to spend 85 or 75 million on Haaland or whoever it may be that we decide is the next striker for Manchester United? We spent 45 million or up to 45 million on Tony Marshall when he played about 15 games for Monaco. Like, we spend a lot of money on big name players. So the idea that United are priced out of a move for these, well, we're not. No. We spend as much as anyone, and just because we don't spend as much as we make, and the owners are parasitic and they take £1.5 billion over the last 15 years for themselves, doesn't mean we don't spend as much as anyone else, or, with a couple of exceptions of PSG and maybe City. But I think if we want Upamecano, his fee will not be the thing that stops us getting him. I think whether we decide he's the right man or not, whether Eric Bailly stays fit for the rest of the season or not could play a big part in that. How Axel Tuanzebe comes along, how Teden Mengi comes along in the next 6 months may all play a part. But I think Upamecano is certainly within the grasp of Manchester United, and if they deem him to be the right man, then I think, so be it, and that would be an excellent choice.
No, I agree completely with everything you said there. We have spent big money, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we went all out for Upamecano. A lot of it may rest on where he wants to go. He may not want to come to Manchester. He may not fancy coming to Manchester United or the Premier League. He may end up going elsewhere. He will have suitors. We know that unless the wheels come off his season very badly and people start questioning him. He's a very young, talented defender who's been doing very well over in Germany. So we'll, as always, we'll keep you posted on that one. But we know that Ollie likes him. We know that United are up for him. So Alaba's off. Upamecano could very well be happening in the summer. And as always, if it does, you'll hear it here first. Now, another centre-back who isn't as well known as Dayot Upamecano, but is sort of highly thought of. Now, this is for Sundo Medina from Lens.
Very nice.
Now, he's a 21-year-old defender. He's Argentinian, and you can see there from the report in the Mirror. Apparently, reportedly serious about signing him. And then he can play either as centre-back or left-back. And there's talk of us maybe signing him and then loaning him back to Lens, which is, again, it's possible. It doesn't make, it's not the craziest story I've ever heard. Do you think, though, I mean, I know Dayot Upamecano's around 21, whatever he is, he's a youngster, but he's sort of proven in it. Do you think United should still be doing this in terms of our defenders, going for these young defenders who aren't yet proven? Or do you think we need someone who can come into the side almost tailor-made? Where do you stand on this idea?
It's weird, isn't it, that 21 is, obviously, it's young for any player, let's be honest, but as a centre-back, it's like as young as you get, really.
Yeah.
Centre-backs don't usually become top-class centre-backs until the earliest 24, 25.
Yeah, sorry, Upamecano's 22 now.
22. But if he was a winger, you'd be saying, by 21, you'd expect him to have done a bit more than that. But as a centre-back, you go, he's barely a child at 21. I think if we're going to be signing a centre-back, there's talks, it doesn't say on there, but 11 million is the fee that's been touted about for him, for Medina. But if we've scouted him, if we think he's the right man, then 11 million. But 11 million's a strange fee for me because it's not the fee of a player that you expect to come in and play, but then it's not the fee of a player that's, 18, 19, really raw talent. It's a strange fee for someone who probably won't be in the first team, but is currently getting first-team football at a top-flight team, albeit a recently promoted side in France. I don't know, it just seems like a weird fit for... We don't really need backup centre-back. We need either someone who's going to, take the place of Bailly or Lindelof, or maybe Maguire, or nothing, really, because we have backup. We've got, if we need him, Jones, if we need him, Rojo, if we need, Axel Tuanzebe, Bailly, Lindelof, Maguire. I don't think we need someone, an 11 million quid centre-back, which, again, I'm not that the price is necessarily indicative of the quality, but I don't know, it just seems like a strange one to me. Do we need a 21-year-old sort of backup? I don't know.
I wouldn't have thought so, and sorry, people pointing out there, it's for Kundo, not for Sundo. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. No, I'm with you. You named a load of players we've got there. You named about the fact we've got Eric Bailly, Axel Tuanzebe, Teden Mengi. There's options, younger options coming through. Also, it says this lad can play at left back. Again, Luke Shaw's doing well. We've got Alex Telles. You've still got Brandon Williams, who can play at left back, of course, who over the next couple of seasons may be sort of staking a real claim for first team football. So going for another up-and-coming youngster. I know this has sort of been Manchester United's MO recently, but I just don't know if it makes much sense to me at the minute. I think we need, like you say, if we are going to buy a defender, it needs to be someone that's going to come in and really sort of get into the first team and make us a better team, not just a stronger squad. I think now, if we're going to be challenging for the top honours, and we've sort of had a little bit of a nibble of it, and we were like, oh, yeah, reminds me of this. Remember this when under Fergie challenging for things? Then I think it's the first 11 that we need to improve, not just the squad. I know it's not mutually exclusive, one or the other, but that should be the focus. And I don't know if signing this kid is the answer. I mean, don't get me wrong, if we do and he's great, I'm not going to be complaining, but it's one to file in the maybe column.
Yeah, and City obviously famously didn't spend a lot on Vincent Kompany, did they? You can look at examples of players who have been bought around this age who come in and end up being world class.
Yeah,
it does happen. But yeah, I think the days of looking too far in the future for success seem to be going away.
Yeah.
We kind of need people who are ready-made to take us to that final step between where we are now and being consistent title contenders. And maybe he's the guy for that. Obviously, a worldwide network of world-class scouts may know more about that than me, or certainly does know more about that than me. But to me, it seems like a slightly strange one that if he does come in, it would probably be for a long-term prospect rather than coming in and you're replacing Victor Lindelof straight away. We've got a super chat from Miles on it. He said, I'm worried about depth for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Honestly, if Eric and Axel can stay fit, we're great at centre-back in my opinion. Tuanzebe could be class for a decade. We don't really have a backup right-back, do we?
No.
And we'll get to Brandon Williams in a little bit as well, who seems to be, again, touted about being sold or loaned out left, right and centre. We don't really have a backup right-back. And unfortunately, we saw today Ethan Laird, who got an assist for MK Dons.
This
looked
is such
like
a
he
shame.
came off with another injury as well. Again, I've not seen official updates on that, but that was the Twitter replies to him being subbed were people saying, yeah, it looks like it's another injury for him. So unfortunate if that is the case, because he's been played with injury and he's a brilliant player. But yeah, we don't really have too many options at right back, do we?
No, we don't. Guys, get involved in the comments and do hit like as well. Let you know what you think of these rumours, these stories, the players that we've been linked with. Also, just going to have a look at some of the comments here. Charlie C says Laird looking more like a winger at MK Dons. I've not seen a lot of it. I've only seen a few clips, but we know what Ethan Laird can be like getting forward. And the clips that I've seen, he was certainly causing all sorts of problems when he was playing against him. Sorry, go on.
Apparently, Marcus there saying Laird said it was just a dead leg. Hopefully it is. That'd be good. Good news.
What's next on the agenda?
Got all sorts coming up. We've got, next up, I think, we'll talk a little bit maybe about your mate, Jadon Sancho.
Jadon Sancho. Will you send me that order, a list I've sent Cam as well? I'll send you a message. Jadon Sancho, now, pre-contract in January.
Yes.
So
there's been a big interview, hasn't there?
Yeah.
A big interview.
Yeah, apparently, this is the latest story. Now, we know you was probably a little bit sick and tired of hearing about Jadon Sancho because at one point it looked like he was nailed to come on in the summer. Everyone was talking about it. He was like, yes, we've agreed to deal with the player. His agent's happy. Everything's sorted. He wants to come to Manchester United. Dortmund have named the price. United are sort of haggling a little bit, but it looks like the deal's going to get over the line. And then it just didn't happen. Manchester United, I don't even think we actually put a concrete bid in, did we? It was more a case of they named their price. We didn't want to meet it. There was these negotiations going on, which seemed to be between intermediaries rather than the clubs talking to one another. It was like representatives of the player, representatives of people who sort of were involved with the club but not directly, staff members or whatever you want to call it, or directors. And it just never quite happened. But the latest is that maybe there could be some sort of agreement up in place because we know that Jadon Sancho, he's not had the best season, has he, so far? But it's not like he's, had a disastrous season. I think his form took a bit of an upturn, and he was giving an interview where he spoke about how he hadn't been playing that well, and he had been a little bit distracted, and a lot had been going on, and obviously the Manchester United rumours and stories, and the fact that it looked like he was going to be moving back over to Manchester had gotten to him a little bit, and he hadn't been performing to the levels that we used to see from Jadon Sancho. But his form's taken a little bit of an upturn, and as you can see there from the graphic, there is a little bit of a momentum gathering to the Sancho to United story again. This is from Raphael Honigstein, who's very reliable.
Yeah,
he's tier one.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, he says no one's stopping United if they went out and felt really confident to say, let's do this deal now. Let's make sure we get it now, and then maybe announce it at the end of January. That's inherently possible. So he's saying we're not going to buy him in January. What we can do is go and get a deal done get him to sort of sign a pre-contract agreement, or we just come to an agreement with Dortmund and with the player, and then it's like we can announce it and say, right, in the summer, Jadon Sancho will be arriving at Manchester United Football Club, which, that could be a real positive. But I don't know. I mean, you can do that sort of thing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Mark Hughes did it at Barcelona. He signed a deal and he was like, in the middle of the season, at the end of the season, I'm going.
Yeah. We saw Pulisic do the same thing a couple of seasons ago on the way to Chelsea from Dortmund as well. So, they've got form with it. If we want him, just get him. I'm just a bit sick of it all now with Sancho.
I think go on.
He's a good player. We know how good he is. I know he's young and he's not been around for 10 years, but he's been one of the best wingers in the world for a couple of years. He's having a bit of a dip this year, but let's just go out and get him. If he's the right man, then get him, because we're taking so long and we've still got this gap. Another season has gone by where we've got this gap at right wing. We've still got no right wingers. The last time United bought a right winger that was meant to be going into the first team squad was Antonio Valencia. Since then, you can call Di Maria one maybe, but he plays off the left, he plays as a number 10, he plays all over the place. Valencia is the last one I can think of that was bought with a view to starting games for Manchester United at right wing. That's nearly 10 years ago. I think it was 9 years ago we got him from Wigan. So we're sort of taking the piss a little bit in that position. Marcus Rashford's played out there. We've seen Dan James play out there. We've seen Martial even play out there a few times down the years. United are desperate for a right winger. And if it's not Jadon Sancho, then hurry up, move on and get the next person. But Honigstein there was talking about a potential fee for United and the fact that apparently United are kind of saying, you're still giving us pre-COVID prices here, and we want to pay COVID prices. And Dortmund are like, yeah, well, we don't have to do anything else. But I do think that at some point, Dortmund are going to have to come down on that £120 million asking price, because there are very few players in the world worth that in the current market. We've seen from this January that no clubs are being able to sort of buy or sell anyone because the market is so difficult. The finances across football are so difficult at the moment. I don't think they can possibly stand there and say he's still worth 120 million when he's had a worse season. He's clearly distracted. He clearly wants to leave, and no football clubs or businesses in the world have got any money. They're going to have to budge on that slightly, and if they don't, we need to move on. And it's as simple as that, really. I don't think we can stick around 2-3 more years waiting for Jadon Sancho. If Dortmund won't sell him, if United won't, be up for paying that money, then we have to get someone else in. There's
a good question there. Humayad Mirza says, does getting Sancho help our chances of getting Haaland? Apparently there's a story doing the rounds, I think it was a couple of days ago, I think it was in fact yesterday, saying that Dortmund are sort of at the point where they're willing to accept the fact that they're going to lose Jadon Sancho in the summer, but the positive for them is that they feel they can keep hold of Erling Haaland, and that selling Jadon Sancho actually makes that more likely that they'll keep hold of Erling Haaland, which is their main priority. I think they want another season out of him at least, where they're quite resigned to losing Jadon Sancho. I don't expect us to get both of those players at all. We'll love it to happen. I think Erling Haaland is a fantastic talent, and I'm gutted we didn't get him when we were linked with him. Was it last season?
Yeah.
But buying both of those players from Dortmund, their two best players, I just don't see it happening. And yes, Dortmund are a selling club, but they're not a club that has to sell all their best players. And I think there was talk of a buyout clause with Erling Haaland, but I just don't see it happening, especially when Mino Raiola's at the helm as well.
If you could only have one of those two, Sancho or Haaland, we get him in at the end of the season, who would you take?
Haaland. I know that's going to hurt me because we probably won't get Haaland, we probably will get Sancho. And I'm not saying Jadon Sancho isn't a fantastic player, but I just think Erling Haaland is just ridiculously good for such a young striker.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal, and it's scary how much better he can become. Whereas Jadon Sancho, I think, is great. He's an exciting player, and I think he'll come in and do a great job for Manchester United if that happens. But I just don't see it happening. Someone else in the comments were me saying, why not Bellingham? I don't see Bellingham coming.
I don't think we need him, do we?
I don't think we need him. We were linked with Jude Bellingham, weren't we? Apparently, it was a choice between us and Dortmund. He was shown around Carrington. Apparently, Sir Alex Ferguson came and met his dad as well. There was we pulled out all the stops, rolled out the red carpet, put our arm around him, offered him a brew, and he said, no thanks, I'm off to the fatherland.
Annoying, isn't it?
It's a bit annoying. It's a bit rude.
Annoying. Very rude, actually.
You know what I mean? You met Sir Alex Ferguson, and you say no.
All the stops.
That's not allowed. Yeah. So we don't want Jude Bellingham. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know where the term "pulled out all the stops" comes from?
No, please enlighten me.
Do you know, like a church organ?
Yes.
A stop is what goes in the pipe so that the air doesn't go through it.
Right.
So when you take out a stop, it allows the air to go through and the noise is bigger. Yeah. So the idea of pulling out all the stops is You're pulling them all out. Now we've got big noise here. You know what I'm saying?
You know
pull out all
else,
the stops, mate.
You know who else needs to pull out all the stops?
What?
The people watching this video who aren't hitting the like button. We've got a paltry amount of likes, people. Come on, hit that like button. Get us to... we've not even got 100 likes, which is just embarrassing, really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Joe's not got dressed up in his favourite jacket just to not even get 100 likes on a video.
Unbelievable.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what else is unbelievable.
Go on.
Robin Lenormand.
Oh, yeah, Robin Lenormand.
Yes. He's been linked with us. Now, you know all about him, don't you? But if you don't, I'll tell you anyway.
Go on, then.
He's a centre-back who plies his trade at Real Sociedad.
Yeah.
Now, he's been linked with United, and again, this is one of those where linked, as me and Joe have always said on this show, Manchester United have a massive database of players. There's players that we're monitoring, there's players we're looking at, there's players that we're sort of showing interest in, there's players that we might have scouting reports on, there's players that we just sort of put on a list and go, he's quite good. You know, maybe one day we'll sign him. But he's one of these players that's been looked at. He's having a good season. He's had a good spell of it, and he's a 24-year-old defender. So you talking earlier about how you don't want to see, or it can be a bit sort of a rarity to get the 20-year-old, the 21-year-old, the 22-year-old defenders. He's a little bit older at 24. He's got a £67 million release clause to sign him. Now, you know, he's done well at Real Sociedad, and they've been doing well. But I mean, it's a lot of money for a player who, you know, he's still, I don't want to say an unknown quantity because he's not unknown, but it's a bit of a gamble in it, and it's a bit of a massive gamble to bring in someone who, from what we know, is a decent player, but he's not as well thought of as someone like a Dayot Upamecano, is it?
Yeah.
What do you reckon to this?
I think part of it is, I mean, well, there's two parts to this. First of all, I think a part of this is putting Real Sociedad and Manchester United in the same article to generate clicks ahead of us playing them in a couple of weeks. I think that's one part of it.
Very astute.
This is an SEO,
very astute,
an SEO tactic by newspapers, so that by the time, or search engine optimization for people who don't know, which is basically how easy it is to find a certain search term on Google and how easy it is for your pages to be found by people searching for those things on Google.
Just out of curiosity, how easy is it to erase your search history?
We'll go over it after.
All right, thank you. Yeah, make sure we do.
Okay, we'll do. I wonder what those noises were. So I think part of this is the Express and other journalists and other newspapers.
Express, that bastion of journalistic integrity, the Express.
Yeah,
they don't tell lies.
No, part of this is them trying to go, in a couple of weeks, we're going to need a lot of people to be searching for Man United versus Real Sociedad. And when they do, we need a back catalogue of articles that can go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and suggested reading in all of this sort of thing. We need to have a cache, a brick wall of stories built up already for when the whole world is looking for this search term. So it's a bit technical, it's a bit silly, but it does go on. And the fact as well, if you follow this article, because we saw this article and we thought, right, let's have a look at this. So you see it in the MEN, and they say, according to this French outlet, you go to that, and they say, according to the Daily Mail, and they say, according to that French outlet, and they say, according to the Daily Mail.
It's like,
there's literally a loop
it's like
of
some
responsibility.
sort of echo chamber or whatever.
Passing the responsibility from one article to the other, to the other, to the other. I think this is a load of shit, Jay, personally. And I hate to say it, and I hate to come out and say United aren't going to sign this guy, and they may well do, and I hope they do, but the chances are this is a nothing story that is being repeated by journalists and by newspapers to get clicks on this topic ahead of us playing Real Sociedad in a few weeks. Sorry to break it to you, Jay. It ain't happening, mate.
I completely agree with you there. And, you know, what you said makes a lot of sense, actually. It's amazing that someone that dresses like that can be so clever.
Well, speaking of that, Ross Murphy says Joe's the only person on Paddock that can rock a leopard print jacket. Do you think that's true?
I think he's the only person on Paddock that dare to rock a leopard print jacket, to be honest with you. Joe dares to tread where others only dream. I'll tell you what, I'd love to wear a leopard jacket, but I've just not got the balls. But no, I agree with you, because when we do the paper talk, what we like to do is, you know, we like to source it. Where's this story come from? So in the morning, you'll see a story that'll go, you know, United, I don't know, Sancho. All right, okay, where's that come from? And you do this thing where it's like the Mirror reporting it.
Yeah.
And then you'll click down, it'll go, as spoken about in the Mail.
Yeah.
You go in the Mail, as spoken about in, you know, ESPN. Yeah. And you end up going, and it just comes back, you know, sometimes it ends up coming from a tweet from someone who's got like 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
Or it'll be speculation.
Yeah.
As suggested by someone on TalkSport who went, oh, you know, United should get him. And that's what it leads back to. So you have to be careful with some of these stories. And what you said about the sort of the search engine optimization, all that makes a lot of sense. Talking of stories that are probably a load of rubbish.
Oh, good.
And that emanated from the Daily
Love
Express.
those.
Not to just hate on the Daily Express, we hate most newspapers, not just you guys. But not all newspapers, of course, and any tier 1 journalists who do welcome on the show, you are always welcome. United have been linked with Christian Eriksen on loan. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you reckon this is going to happen? 10 being extremely likely, 0 being not at all.
I would say this is between 0 and 1.
So you're saying there's a chance. Sorry, go
Christian
on.
Eriksen, of course, of Spurs fame. He was the star of the documentary All or Nothing on Amazon Prime.
He had that great line. I remember that line. He said to Jose, he said, Frank Lampard's on the telly, and he went, what was he like, Frank? Jose went, really good.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Great acting. Some of the best acting ever.
Genius.
And he's acting like a footballer in Inter Milan as well, isn't he? He's not really being a footballer for about a year now, which is remarkable because I think he's either 27 or 28. He was certainly 27 in the summer.
Let's have a look.
I think he's a great player, and he has been one of the best. He's 28 now, and he has been one of the best players in the Premier League at times in his career. He was certainly Tottenham's best player for a long time, even ahead of Harry Kane, I would say, in terms of influence. His goals and assists was incredible. But he went out, let's not forget, he wasn't just being Mardy at Tottenham. His form dropped way off as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the case of we're not going to play him because he's moving on. There was a bit of that, but there was also he wasn't playing very well. So then he doesn't get a game at Tottenham, and then that exacerbates and that gets worse, and all of a sudden he can't get a game at Tottenham because everyone knows he's leaving. Then he goes to Inter Milan, that hasn't worked either, and he's kind of at that point now where he's rolling the dice for maybe one of the last times here. If this next move doesn't come off, you could see a Turkey, a China, a Russia, something of that nature where maybe a Bundesliga or something that is, a dramatic step down from where he has been playing. I just don't think United are in for him. It's the one position we don't really need. We've got Bruno, of course, who plays there. We've got Van der Beek, who can play there. We've got Pogba, who can play there. I don't think we need another attacking midfielder. Certainly not one that hasn't played particularly well in a year.
No.
I think he's a great player, and he has been a great player, but I don't think this is going to happen. We've got a quote there. Solskjaer is quite keen on the idea of signing Christian Eriksen on loan until the end of the season, as he's looking for a creative central midfielder to assist in United's title challenge for the Premier League title. There's a possibility of this happening, and maybe as a loan is when it's most likely. You can't rule out the idea of a short-term loan because, as we'll get to shortly about Odion Ighalo, but we did sign Odion Ighalo on loan. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we'd get Christian Eriksen, but it just doesn't seem likely to me.
I mean, you're right, and that position, Donny van der Beek, similar-ish type of player, can't get a look in, and we just spent 40 million quid on him, and he's actually played pretty well when he's played for Manchester United. Eriksen has a touch of the Lingards about him to me, like you were saying a few years ago. Flying high, playing every game for Tottenham, one of their main men, one of, as you pointed out, the Premier League's best midfielders. Almost fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Form just completely deserted him. Goes to Inter Milan, and let's not forget Inter and Serie A, without being too disrespectful, it's a place where, Alexis Sanchez, Ashley Young, players like Chris Smalling can go there who've been struggling in the Premier League and shine. And he's gone there and can't even get in the team.
Yeah. And even Lukaku, who always scored goals at United, has taken a notable step up in his goal scoring at Inter, which good for him. He's a very good player, and it's not the same situation it was with Sanchez, who'd completely lost his form. But you go from here in the Premier League to here in Italy, don't you?
Yeah, you do. So, again, I mean, that came from the Transfer podcast. That's for me and McGarry. I think that's the one with, is it Duncan Castle as well is involved in that one. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's biggest fan ever. But, again, very unlikely. If we had a massive injury crisis, if we lost, say, 3 midfielders, that actually might make a bit of sense. Just get someone in who's got Premier League experience who can do a job to shore up a few gaps. As you were mentioning, with Odion Ighalo, give you something extra, give you something different. But I just don't see it. The one area we probably don't need another or any 6 out of 10 players is midfield. Doesn't make any sense to me. And I think Christian Eriksen, like you said, he's going to have to rejuvenate his career. There's talk of him going back to Spurs. Maybe that'll happen.
Which would be absolutely mad, wouldn't it, really? Let's be honest. Him going back to Spurs after just essentially refusing to play for him for 6 months.
I don't get that. I don't get what's going on there. I don't get what's going on at Spurs. It's very confusing, that club. There's talk of Dele Alli going to PSG and Christian Eriksen coming back. I don't know, but I don't really concern myself too much with what's going on at Spurs. Callum Grant is in the super chat. He says, sorry, Gaunt.
Come on, mate.
My eyes, terrible. Callum Gaunt says, if we win a trophy this season, then I expect leopard print jackets on all Paddock's on-camera talents. First game of next season. Tell you what, that's a deal.
The word talent's quite...
I mean, he's using that word a bit fast and loose with talent. But, yeah, if we win a trophy, we'll all do it.
Read that super chat as well, Joe.
United Forever podcast says,
thank you.
At Joe, can you do a podcast about your youth and highlights of your life? Be quite short. You're one of the best YouTubers on the planet, on par with Scotty and Motty. Do you know what?
Interesting.
I'll say that. On par.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. Let's be honest. The autobiography is in the works.
Yeah.
I've been writing that myself, yeah.
Yeah.
Scribbling it down on Post-it notes since I was about 4 years old. No, I may well do a podcast, but I don't think it'll be
When
about
are you going to do
youth.
a podcast?
Well, my youth isn't particularly of event.
Well, you don't have to do a podcast on youth. I know it's a nice suggestion. Why don't you do a podcast though? What's wrong with you?
I will do a podcast, all right.
We all do one, except you. Even I do a podcast, and I'm 73.
I'm on about 3 podcasts a week, though.
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
That don't count. They're not real
Yeah.
ones.
Scotty and
Motty
Motty, Stephen Alson TV, whatever it's called. Adam McCullough TV.
Yeah.
Where's yours?
All right, I'll get one then.
What are you going to call it?
Joe TV.
Oh, great. Well,
no, I'll call it Joe...
What do you call it?
Podcast. Joe Podcast. Chelsea are losing 2-0, by the way. And Frank Lampard's
if anyone cares.
Let's be honest with us.
Is he though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He is.
Yeah, they are losing, but I don't know if he'll get sacked. He probably will eventually. I don't know if it's going to be tonight, though, or after this result. Let's talk about Odion Ighalo.
Yeah.
I love Odion Ighalo.
Yeah.
Probably not just for footballing reasons.
No, probably
more for his
for
social media reasons.
Yeah.
He's quite cute on Instagram.
Yeah, we talked a bit about this, didn't we, last week, about Ighalo, whose time is coming to an end at Manchester United at the end of January. Fair enough. I think he's done the job we brought him in to do. Slightly surprised that he got that extra sort of 3 or 4 months at the end of the summer.
Was that a mistake, that one?
No, it wasn't a mistake, was it? I don't think there's any need.
Was it not?
Why was it? Dickhead. What are you going to do? Kick this man who's on barely 300 grand a week in China, pittance.
Why?
You're going to try and kick him out on the street, are you? During a pandemic, no less.
I just started this segment by saying I love Odion Ighalo. Right?
Wow.
I didn't say, oh, let's kick him out on the street. I'm just saying we extended his contract and he's not kicked a ball for us, has he? He came on. What game was it? He came on one. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which game was it then? It's so amazing.
Which game was it? I'm not telling you. If you don't know, I shouldn't have to tell you.
Don't you
we know? In the comments, someone will tell us. But my God, was it a performance off the bench?
Well, I'm actually at the point now where I feel sorry for him because even like Watford, and you know all he loves playing people that have against the former clubs, to get my words out.
Yep.
So, you know, we saw it with Dean Henderson when he went back to Sheffield United, and it was like, oh yeah, Odion might feature against Watford. He was on the bench. You wanted a bit of a cushion, like a 2-goal cushion, then he could have brought him on. Didn't happen.
I thought you meant so he could have a nap on the bench.
Well, he could have done.
A little cushion
the amount
under
of
his
football he's been
lower
playing
back.
for us. So he didn't get on, unfortunately.
Yep.
And I'm, you know, he might get a game in the Europa, but it's not looking great for old Odion, is it? And I think it might be time to call an end to this little chapter in his life.
Yeah, well, he's done what he wanted to do, hasn't he? He's lived the dream, so to speak. He's going to be leaving in, 12 days anyway. So, you know, no need to rub it in, is what I'd say, Joe. Fair enough, though, isn't it?
He's been linked. Is it a return to wherever he was? It came
Shanghai.
Shanghai. That's the one.
He's linked with the return to the club he's contracted at.
But also,
he's linked with them. Who knows if he'll turn up to training
Turkey,
or not?
Turkey as well, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow, good luck to
Turkish
him.
Giants, Besiktas, I think.
Turkish Giants. You hear a lot about those famous Turkish Giants, don't you? Walking around, stealing geese off everyone, laying eggs and that.
I went to Turkey in 2002. It was wonderful.
A round of applause for Jay, who went to Turkey in 2002.
I had blonde hair at the time as well.
Well done, Jay.
Bit of trivia for you there.
Did you really?
I went to Creamfields, dyed my hair blonde. May have taken a few things.
Really?
Got a message off a mate, do you want to come to Turkey on Monday? And I was like, I'm just starting a new job. Oh, okay, I'll go. And then I went to Turkey, got sacked, and came home.
Good lad.
Yes. So, big thanks to Turkey, it was wonderful. So yeah, Odion Ighalo might be heading over there. Nice little story, came in, scored a few goals, couple of belters as well, gave us all a bit of a lift. and it's probably best for all concerned if he moves on. Another player that could be moving on, bit of a different story to Odion Ighalo, one who's been at the club since he was little, Jesse Lingard.
Now, it looked like he was going to go, didn't it?
It looked like he was going to go to Nice. He was linked with a move to Nice even. Sheffield United were apparently interested in him. That's not 100% dead in the water. I think there's still rumours that maybe they could come back in for him, but it's looking very unlikely. Hence the reason you see from the graphic, it's likely he's going to stay at Manchester United. Where do you stand on this one? What are you smirking at as well? You're making me nervous.
Someone doing the lyrics of the sort of hymn, but Jerusalem, but with my name in it instead. I'm quite enjoying it.
This Joe Fest is knocking me sick. I'm only joking. I love it, really.
Lingard's representatives held talk with Nice yet, but yeah, club president Jean-Pierre River has warned you shouldn't expect big names in January. Now, what we're doing there is using big name and Jesse Lingard in the same sentence. Are we unwise to do that, Jay?
Right, don't do that again.
Sorry, I knocked your laptop there.
Ever.
Right.
I don't think we are. Jesse Lingard is a big deal.
Yeah.
He is. England International, mate, playing the World Cup. Well, he used to be in England International. Playing the World Cup semi-final. Yeah.
I think England International is a title you never lose. It's like president, isn't it?
Yeah,
always,
like Mr. President, even like Trump tomorrow will still be
England
called.
International.
Like George W. Bush is still called Mr. President. So Jesse Lingard is still England International. Jesse Lingard scored in 2 cup finals. Yeah. Played hundreds of games, hundreds of games for Manchester United Football Club. So he's still a big player, and he's still only 28. It's not like he's past it. But as we mentioned earlier, his form has deserted him. He's not even getting. I mean, he's not getting the bench anymore, does he?
No.
And it is quite sad to say. He was linked with a move to Nice. He was also linked with a move to Sheffield United. Now, part of the problem with that is the reports were that he wasn't keen on that because he felt if he went on loan to Sheffield United to end the season, they look pretty doomed. They get relegated. It damages him and a chance of getting a permanent deal elsewhere. But I don't know. I don't think it does. I think if he went to Sheffield United and they get relegated, no one goes, well, that's Jesse Lingard's fault. And he gets some Premier League experience because he's got experience, but some match practice because he's not playing.
No, he's not.
And I think, in the summer, you're going to be buying a player who's not kicked a ball properly for, a year. And I think that could hurt him more than go to Sheffield United. But I think also, if he goes to Sheffield United, and even if he just, gets 3 goals and 3 assists or whatever, people go, well, he did a good job there. So, I don't know, I just feel a little bit sorry for him because he gets a lot of stick, Jesse Lingard. And I just feel like it's a shame.
I think the bar is horrifically low for Sheffield United, isn't it? So if he goes there, like I said, gets 3 goals, 3 assists, he could easily get that move to Palace, Newcastle, Wolves, Everton, maybe not Everton because they've pushed on a little bit.
Yeah.
But, a consistent mid-table team, West Ham, obviously, David Moyes connection there. We don't know what their relationship's necessarily like, but that could be something that works. I think he needs to get football, really. Because if you're, just for his sake, if you're him sat at home every day, you go training, you go home, you go training, you go home, it's not like he's never had a game for United. It's not like, Andres Pereira sort of was on loan most of his career, came in, played 1 season and left. Jesse Lingard has been here a long time, had multiple seasons as a first-choice, first-team regular at United, and is now being told, we don't need you anymore. The longer he waits, the longer he sits about doing nothing, like you said, the less chance he has of going to a bigger club. So I think he needs to get games. He needs to go to a team that will have him, a team that will kind of work. And again, Sheffield United, the pressure is off. No one's expecting you to go there and keep them up.
No.
No one's expecting you to go there and get 10 goals, 10 assists by the end of the season and sneak them into 17th place. You're going there to play games, hopefully look like one of the better players in what is a struggling side. Personally, I think, if the offer's there, I would take it if I was him.
And do you know what? I don't even think like Sheffield United play that bad football. It's not like the football's awful, and it's like they're just hoofing it up and absolutely backs to the wall. They actually played quite decent football.
They just can't defend.
They can't defend, and also they can't finish.
No.
Like, they've got the lad they brought off the Scousers, Ryan Brewster. I don't think he's scored many goals.
Ryan's quite a nice take on that.
Ryan.
Usually Ryan, yeah, but Ryan's good.
Well, I come from it's Ryan, mate. None of this fanciness. Sorry, Ryan Brewster. I don't like mispronouncing it. It's very, very rude, and I'm not like that. Yeah. But they've got the other lad who can't score either. So he goes into that side. I don't think people are going to be sort of too critical of him if he doesn't set the world alight. Gets a bit of practice, and then hopefully gets a move. But as it says, he's likely to stay. So he's likely to just stay and just sit on the bench every other game or whatever it is. Maybe get a run out in the Europa, which is mad because you think about it with Jesse Lingard. 2 years ago, there was a conversation, Joe, and people will deny this, but there was comparisons with Eden Hazard.
There was comparisons with Eden Hazard.
Yeah, I can hear Cam in the background laughing. There was, because the reason was, you may scoff, was the goals and assists were the same.
Yeah.
It was like, well, he's got that many goals and assists this season, and so has he.
Yeah.
So
another comparison that maybe looks more apt.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous.
Not for the same reasons now, but is Dele Alli, who was often compared to a lot, Jesse Lingard as well. Yeah. Who both of them now seem to have fallen out of favour. I think for different reasons. Well, I think it's definitely for different reasons. But he's someone else who looks like he's heading off to PSG or having to leave Tottenham. So an interesting one, because he's not, he's 27 or 28. He's not old.
No.
He's no worse than he was a few years ago, but just can't get a game.
It is, and
it shows it's a testament, to United's improvement and United's squad depth that we don't need to rely on Jesse Lingard anymore, which is a bit of a shame, but probably for the best, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's very sort of indicative of how far we done fell, as they say, when it was a case of last season, if Pereira wasn't doing the business, then we'd bring on Jesse Lingard. I remember, was it Bournemouth away, I think, or games like that when we were losing and we lost, and it was just like, what is going on here? We need more than this. And now you look at the options we've got, you look at the bench that we have, we always seem to have quite a strong bench, we always seem to have different options as well, especially in and around that area where Jesse Lingard likes to play. So it's no surprise he's not getting a game. Slightly surprising he's not taking a move, but you don't know whether it's wages, you don't know whether he just doesn't fancy going to someone who's at the foot of the table. It could be all of the above. But I think it'll be better for all concerned when Jesse Lingard does move on. Nate Bennett is in the chat. Says, if we don't get a centre-back this January, I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as the club putting faith in Tuanzebe, who is worthy of a run of games. I agree on that. I like Tuanzebe. I think the only sort of issue or reason he's not getting that many games is because Eric Bailly's keeping fit. And there's actually a bit of a contest now, isn't there, for those centre-back positions. You saw it against the Scousers where the team was announced and everyone was like, no Eric Bailly, Victor Lindelof's in. And Victor Lindelof had one of his best games in a United shirt. I thought he didn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
So, like I say, you've got competition. I rate Tuanzebe. I'd love to see him stay at the club and do well. But you make a good point there, especially in January. I don't think right now we need to bring another centre-back in, because I think as well, if you bring a centre-back in, it takes him a few months to get used to it. By that time, the season's done. And if a centre-back comes in, is he going to be a better option than Eric Bailly or Axel Tuanzebe? Probably not.
It's going to be hard to improve on the defence. With the pool of players that are available in January, it's going to be hard to improve on Lindelof and Eric Bailly. Not that they're the best centre-backs in the world, but they're both very good centre-backs. And the fact that Bailly's keeping fit, Tuanzebe's keeping fit a little bit as well, we don't need a centre-back at the moment, I don't think. Maybe long-term, and like I said, if we're replacing one of the first-team defenders, then so be it. But I'm not certain that we need a centre-back right at this moment. I don't think that will be the thing that can take us from where we are now to first in the... Well, I say first by the end of the season. We're still first. And for at least another 19 minutes. Chelsea still 2-0 down to Leicester.
Hold on to
He's
those
getting
9
sacked,
minutes.
isn't he? Can we talk about that for a second?
Go on,
is Frank Lampard about to get sacked? Because if this was, if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be saying he needs more time. I would be saying he's had loads of new transfers. He spent a lot of money. It takes a while to bed them in, especially when almost all of those transfers, except I think Thiago Silva, are young players who are relatively inexperienced. Certainly, none of them have played in the Premier League before. You would think he might need a season to bed those players in. But at Chelsea, you don't get that season. No. Generally speaking, if they lose this game, I think their recent form is horrific. And they're down to 8th after half of the season. That's a substantial portion of the season to be well out of the top 4, especially considering that last season they were 4th all season. Basically, they spent the 7 months of the year being in 4th position, which they ended up finishing in the end as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Lampard did get sacked. Do you think I think this might be his last game as a Chelsea manager?
I don't know. Someone was talking about this before in the office, and I'm not so sure. I just think, yes, Chelsea do have this sort of modus operandi of going through managers every other season or whatever it is. But does it not count the fact that he was a club legend?
It does count, but
not matter
I think
anymore?
it does count, but he's halfway through
no,
the season.
I mean, to them, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying, would they not look at it and go, give him to the end of the season because of who he is?
I think Abramovich may well say it's already counted. He's already cashed that chip in when he, like the first half of the season was that. I reckon Abramovich would have wanted him out a month ago. 2 months ago. Yeah, because I think they were top or near top, weren't they? And since then, it's been essentially free fall. And I think if it was any other manager that didn't have a history with the owner, I think that he may well be gone already.
Do you think Chelsea overdid it in the transfer market? And that sounds crazy because I don't. Part of me thinks you can't buy too many good players. but he brought in a lot. And we all expected them all, like I did anyway. I thought Chelsea would be challenging right at the top when they brought in the likes of Havertz and
Werner, Thiago Silva, Chilwell.
And a new keeper as well, Mendy. I thought, they've got some top-class players there. But, you mentioned that it took time. And if you go back to last season where he didn't have anyone, he brought it back the loanees or whatever, but he didn't really make many signings.
Yeah.
Then do you think that's been his problem? He's just had too many players to embed who haven't got used to the Premier League quick enough, or what do you think's going wrong for him?
Yeah,
I don't want to turn this into Chelsea FC, but it's worth.
Well, no, because it's worth
Chelsea
mentioning
TV,
because the fact that they're losing. Obviously, Chelsea's a big rival United anyway, and Leicester are about to go top.
Let's not forget, Chelsea finished level on points with us last season.
Yeah, exactly, and then spent 250 million quid.
And we were all sat here. Me and you were here, going, look at what Chelsea are doing, and we're dragging our heels with Sancho and buying a 33-year-old Cavani who's out of contract. What do you reckon then? Do you reckon it's just too many?
The only thing, there's a couple of things in there.
Spoil the broth.
There is a little bit of that. I think they have tried to embed too many players at once. So it's Mendy, Chilwell, Thiago Silva, Havertz, Ziyech, and Werner, who they've tried to get 6 players into a starting 11. Like, that's difficult to do.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult, especially when you buy a new striker and they don't fire straight away. It's like, that confidence can just go and take months to get back, if not, never come back.
Yeah.
Like someone like Morata's a good example, Higuain's another example, who's scored hundreds of goals wherever he's been, everywhere else. Fernando Torres another one, where everywhere they've been scored goals, come to Chelsea or, all teams have it. If a striker doesn't have the first 20 games of a striker are crucial. Because if you don't get a good amount of goals in those games, sometimes you just never get it back.
No.
And you have to move club, you have to move country to get that form back, which I'm not saying Ziyech or Havertz or any of those, their careers done, because obviously not. But sometimes it's just like, we need either a new manager or a new club before they're going to return to form. That might not be the case, but it can be really difficult for strikers to find form once they've lost it, especially at the start of a spell at a new club. And the other point is Thomas Tuchel, PSG manager, former Dortmund manager, who just got sacked a few weeks ago from PSG, is now available and out of a job, and one of the biggest names in world football.
It feels like a Chelsea type of manager.
Such a Chelsea type of manager. Chelsea don't have a style of play or a philosophy. Right. Their philosophy is, who's the best manager that's available, let's get him.
And give him a load of dough.
Yeah, and if it's Jose, you want to play like that. If you want to play like Sarri plays, if you want to play like Ancelotti or Conte or Scolari or whoever it is, Avram Grant, until he gets you to a Champions League final and gets sacked. Like, whoever it is, they just get who's available.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Frank Lampard didn't manage.
They always seem as well, don't they? The Chelsea managers. They have like 2 seasons, don't they? And like even the successful, like Ancelotti had a couple of seasons, didn't he? Like won a double, and then the next season they finished second to United, and it's like he's off you go. Conte even won the title. Next season doesn't win anything.
Chelsea fans wanted Conte. Well, not all of them. There were a decent amount of Chelsea fans who didn't like him, even though they'd won him a title. Like you'd be like, Conte's not the right man long term. Like, sorry, did you not just get 90 points under him? Or something ridiculous. He was brilliant for them. And Sarri the same.
But they finished third. They won the
Europa League. And then sacked him.
I mean...
That's what I'm saying. When you talk about, does Frank Lampard not get a bit of leeway here, a bit of a grace period because he knows him? Your last manager finished higher in the league, won a trophy, and got sacked the same season. Yeah. You got to a final and lost it last year. You finished in one lower position than you did under the manager that got sacked, and now you're 8th, having won I think like 2 games in the last 10. I'm not saying if I was a Chelsea fan, I would say let's hold on here because that's generally the way I approach things. But don't be surprised to see Frank Lampard get sacked here.
No, I know what you mean, and I wouldn't put any money on Roman Abramovich showing any patience. Got a couple of super chats. Vinay Navneet says, do you think McTominay can achieve the level of Saul and end our CDM search? Joe, over to you. You know all about this.
I don't think he'll end our CDM search if we are indeed searching for a CDM, which it sounds as though we are.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player and I think he has improved. And he's a player that people keep saying, like, he needs to improve, he needs to improve. Well, he is improving. And just because he doesn't go from being where he is when he first came through to world class overnight. People are like, oh, he needs to improve. Look how much better he's got.
Yeah.
You see it when you watch him. He is improving.
Yep.
It's whether he continues to improve. I think it's unfair to say he needs to improve. He is improving. I think that there's no question about that in my eyes. Scott McTominay is a much better player now than the player who came through. He's much more versatile. He carries the ball forward better. He arrives in the box and is a threat going forward much more than he used to be. We saw against Liverpool his dribbling and his tight control is much better than it used to be. Unfortunately, him and Fred and a lot of the defence could not stop giving the ball away. So there's an area for improvement. A bit more composure on the ball, a little bit more quality when you've got people pressing you. But Scott McTominay certainly is improving. We've just got to hope he keeps improving.
Yeah, no, I agree. He is improving. I don't think he ends at CDM search.
No, I agree.
I think that, for me, Scott McTominay, and I love him to prove me wrong, will be a very good squad player for Manchester United, probably for the next 7 or 8 years. I don't know if he's going to be nailing down a first-team place. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And, you look at some of our players that we sort of revere now when we look back at them, the likes of Jadon Park, the likes of Darren Fletcher. There was long periods in their career at United when they weren't first choice. You know what I mean? They had like a couple of seasons where they probably were, but by and large, it was like they were part of the squad. And if everyone was fit, they might not even make the starting 11. So that's not the end of the world. And I think as well, the Fred McTominay axis, it's been a bit patchy this season. The results have shown that. It's not got a great record, those two together this season. I'm not saying that's down just to McTominay, but it is a little bit worrying. I was reading it, someone was posting a few stats before, and we haven't had a great run when those two played together. I think it's not been quite as productive or as effective as it was last season, and that is a little bit of a worry. We've got another super chat as well. This is from TrevStar92. Quite a bold statement.
Very bold. Get
Very
it out.
bold, but we like that boldness. It's time for Martial to move on. Great for 7 to 10 games a season. Then the rest is below average. Let Rashford and Greenwood play in favoured positions. Joe, discuss.
I don't think it's time to let Martial move on. I do see where you're coming from in that I don't think he's consistent enough across the season. I think the fact that the most recent full season was his highest goal scoring season means we persevere and you expect that again. But again, I keep saying this. When you're Manchester United's number 9, or one of Manchester United's number 9s, you can't have your best season and then say, look what I did last year. Well, you've got 2 goals this year. You have to do that every year. The standard for Manchester United is we have a striker that gets at least 20 goals a season, at least, really 25, ideally 30. And that's what we've had in all our successful periods.
Yeah. Rooney
did it consistently. Then you had Ronaldo, who did it not quite as a striker, but similarly. Berbatov, who did it, and when he stopped doing it, we got rid of him. Van Nistelrooy was maybe the best we've ever seen at it, since the 60s. We saw Dwight York did it for a year, and then after that, let's not forget how quickly Dwight York dropped out of that team, by the way. I think it was 30 goals he got in 99. 2 years later, could barely get a game for United because you have to be ruthless with your number 9s. That's not a position you're allowed to have 3 bad years in. Like, Martial has to kind of turn it around, and quite quickly, if he wants to stay Man United's number 9, because as much as we like him and as many talents as he's got, unfortunately, you just can't afford to have a 10-goal season as Man United's number 1 striker and expect not to be replaced. We've seen it, we see it too often at United that's just how it has to be, unfortunately.
No, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I mean, the thing with Martial, and I said this when we bought Sanchez, people going, because he has got, I know people say Martial FC, but he's got a sort of strong support network within our fan base who are quite very much pro Martial. And I get it, because, he's a fantastically talented player, scored some very important goals. Some of my favourite moments post Sir Alex Ferguson have been thanks to Martial. Think about the semi-final against Everton, his debut, games like that. But you can't, like you're saying, you can't dine out on that forever. And what I said when Sanchez came in and Martial was more shots, force you into the team. You make yourself undroppable by your performances, by getting those goals. And he did that. He came back into that team, and when Oli came in, Oli was like, and it happened before Oli came in, to be fair. Under Jose towards the end, he was putting in some performances where you're like, that's the player we know. And then Oli came in and went, you know what, I'm going to stick with him as number 9. And he forced the issue where he made himself undroppable. And he needs to do that again. He needs to force it because, like you say, you can't keep reverting back to what you've done in the past. And we know the talent's there. And me, you, and McCall were talking about this on Macca's channel, saying about, I was personally saying he needs to think more like a number 9 at times. Yeah. Yes, he's very good at dropping deep and getting the ball and holding up play and doing that good stuff. But I want to see him being a bit greedy. When he gets in the box, have a little bit more tunnel vision of, I'm going to get my shot off. Because ultimately, as a striker, you've got to score goals. This isn't, I don't want to hear Roberto Firmino type defending, saying, he's a defensive striker, which he isn't anyway, whatever that is. So, no, I agree with you. I still have faith in Anthony
Me too,
Martial.
by the way. Just to make that clear, I'm not saying get rid of Martial.
No, I know you're not.
I think there's a great player that we've seen a lot.
Yeah.
But he needs to keep being great.
Also, as well, if you look at his age,
stop.
He's 25 now, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying again, he's not past it, but he's at an age where strikers tend to be in and around the peak, getting towards the peak now. They're not kids, they're not youngsters. He's been around the Premier League for a long time. Yep. He's got all the attributes, so hopefully we'll see him getting the goals. And I think it'll be one of those as well. I think once he starts getting back into his routine, he won't. I don't think we're going to hit the numbers we saw last season, but if he can finish the season on, say, 15 goals, whatever, I think we'll all be happy. Peter Kelly in the Super Chat says, Rashford's performances has dropped a bit recently, and although he may not be physically tired, he may be mentally tired. Does he need to be rested for Fulham? I think he does need to be rested. I don't think he will be, but I think he does. I think that Marcus Rashford does play with injuries. He does look mentally fatigued at times, and he has played a lot of football under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ever since Ole's come in, Marcus has been one of his main men. You know, he's always sort of picked him. He's always seems to be in the team. He always seems to leave him on as well. He doesn't sub him very often. It's quite rare for that to happen. And you can see his performances haven't been great. And I'm one of Marcus Rashford's biggest fans. But I can see the levels that he's performing at aren't as good as they were last season. Before. You know, the guy had a broken back, a damaged vertebrae. Yeah. Got an injury. You know, came back. Then he had a shoulder thing. Then he had an ankle thing. Kept playing though, and it's like, oh yeah, he was playing, but he's still carrying it on. Why? And then there is that sort of mental fatigue as well, where you're constantly playing. Every game's a must-win game. He's been doing well in terms of productivity, Marcus Rashford. Lots of goals, lots of assists this season. But I think his performances haven't been as good as previous seasons. Chelsea have just scored, by the way. And I think, is it Timo Werner? I know it's offside, there you go.
2-0.
Normal service resumed. I wouldn't be averse to giving him a rest against Fulham. I know, again, it's a must-win game, but we should be able to beat Fulham without relying on Marcus Rashford. Yeah. Kikison says Rashford has always played through pain, even as a kid. He's one of those players that wants to play every game, will play every game, loves Manchester United, will run through a brick wall from you. And sometimes maybe he needs protecting from himself, and all he needs to say, do you know what, Marcus? I'll give you a bit of a rest today.
Something to bear in mind with Marcus Rashford as well is, he's always been a player, no matter what form he's been in, that has received a lot of criticism. And that his playing style, because he sprints at defenders, because he tries to go at defenders, he loses the ball quite a lot. And he always has done. Yeah. And I think his performances have dropped slightly. But at any period in Manchester United, or Rashford's career at United, you could find the stories and you could find the tweets and you could find the conversation like we're having now that we see a lot, where people saying, he needs a rest, he's not been good enough. He needs a rest. He's not quite doing it. People have said that his whole career.
People have said, you don't win a title with Marcus Rashford in your team.
People have been
even when we're sat on top of the table.
So I do think that some of it is almost, this is just the perception of Marcus Rashford. He does need a rest. He plays every game, and he's got knocks. We know, more privately that he has been playing through injuries. Everyone kind of knows he's been playing through injuries as well. It's not like we know anything that anyone else does, but he's definitely been playing through injuries. But he's been playing through injuries for nearly 2 years now. Was it Liverpool in 2019?
Hobbling, Joe.
He's been pretty much had one injury or another since then.
Yeah.
I just think that's he does need a rest again. I just think that is part of the public perception of Marcus Rashford, is that he's dropped a bit of form when actually he's on for his biggest goal scoring season ever. We're halfway through the season. He's got 14 goals. So what's that 28-goal season he's on for? Obviously, you don't have the group stage and that kind of thing, but let's assume we go quite far in some of the cup tournaments this season. 28 goals he's on for. Oh, he doesn't need a rest if you ask me. I just think, bear in mind that this has always been the talk around Rashford. Does he need a rest? He's not quite playing where he's up to. I think just the way he plays is, he isn't like fantastic every single minute of the game. He has spells and bursts and explosions because he's so quick and he uses his pace and he loves to sprint at defenders and try and go past them. Sometimes that looks really shit when it goes wrong. Like when you sprint and you just run into a defender, you're like, oh, he needs a rest, Marcus. But when he goes past him and sticks it in the back of the net like he does, and he has done 14 times this season, not all of them going past the defender, but you know what I mean? You think, yeah, that's more like it. But these things happen in the same game. He looks like he needs a rest, and at other times, brilliant tracking back. Oh, and he's up the other end. Oh, and he scored. I just think that's kind of his play style a little bit, and he does play too often. He is playing through injuries, so maybe a rest would do him good. But I do think he gets a lot of unnecessary criticism, which he has always got.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. We've seen it time and time again. I remember his debut against Midtjylland, right? I sat there in the seat at J stand, and there was these two numpties who sat a few rows behind us, and it was a Europa League game. So normally I'd know everyone who sat around, but because it was a cup game, you had different people. And from the kick-off, they were levered. Yeah. And they were giving him a load of grief. Who's he? He's crap. Who's this kid?
Who's he?
Yeah,
he's crap.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
And people around him were like, he shut up. He's a kid who's making his debut. And then he scored 2 goals. And I wouldn't mind both of them fucked off.
Really?
Yeah, they left. And I was just like, well, can't you get behind a young lad who's coming into the team?
I mean,
and then we saw all those goals and his Premier League debut, he scored a winner at Derby, everything was rosy. And then when it tailed off a little bit, which was always going to, you can't sustain that level of scoring the winner. Scoring the winner in every game you're playing. It's just not going to happen. People's senses are sort of sticking out, and I think, you know what? I think we're lucky to have Marcus Rashford. I don't give a shit if people think it's, you love Marcus Rashford. I love him because he's a fantastic footballer for Manchester United. Talking of fantastic footballers for Manchester United, Amad Diallo.
Oh, yes.
From what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been saying in his press conference, we've got a bit of a gem. He was asked about Diallo today, and he said, in terms of how he's been performing in training, very good. He can handle the ball. He's enjoyed training, makes a difference in training, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
At his age, some adjustments to settle into the hustle and bustle of the Premier League, but I can't see it's too long until he's in the squad.
There's a proper Nan statement as well in there. I don't know if we got the quote for it, but he describes him as a smiley young boy. Oh, he's such a smiley young boy. Yeah, I think I've got that here. Like he's some like.
Oh no, I don't. I think I might have.
He said that anyway. It's nice that he's coming in.
I think I cut that.
He's making friends. He's having fun, but it's a proper like old lady. Oh, he was such a smiley young boy. I can't believe he turned out to be a serial killer. One of those interviews, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like he's impressed in training. He can handle the ball. That seemed to be his most obvious trait, didn't it? You watch highlights, anyone can say quickly, this guy's a great dribbler. Like the way he plays on the ball, I think his through balls and his short passing look really impressive to me from the short clips we've seen, which, to be fair, no one's seen much longer clips than that because he's played about 50 minutes of first flight football this season. So, it's clear that he's good on the ball. But hopefully, we can see him a few times this season. Well,
in that vein as well, Solskjaer was talking about his debut being 5 weeks away, and he said it might be quicker than that. He's definitely settled down well. Players have taken to him. He's a good, I've got it here. He's a good character, polite, smiley boy who works really hard.
Good.
He's doing his sessions, getting used to us. So he's got a smile on his face, getting his head down. And it might not even be 5 weeks away till we've got to see him. Might see him, I don't know, when's that? Before the end of February. I mean, do we need to temper our expectations about this kid a little bit?
No.
Because already people are saying, we need someone on the right, you can play there.
Yeah.
Well, no.
World class. He better be world class, Jay. Because otherwise, I won't go to another United game this season. I can tell you that much.
That's a fucking bold statement.
I mean, no one else will either, so it's a pretty easy one to say because you're not our fans.
I'm not setting foot inside Old Trafford this season until I see Amad Diallo playing on that right wing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
See what I mean? We'll stick to that as well because when me and Joe say something, we stick to it.
I wouldn't say temper your expectations like... It depends what your expectations are. If you are saying he's going to come in and be United's right winger overnight, then yeah, that ain't happening. But that's to anyone that's read anything about what this guy's like and the situation with him, surely that's very few people's expectations. I hope that he can come in and maybe make a handful of appearances if he really impresses in training. That would be my limit of my expectations from him. But yeah, he looks like he could be a very good player. Again, we've not really seen much of him. We've not even seen those like little highlights from training. It's so fresh in the squad. So hopefully we'll see some of those soon. Hopefully he might be able to get a game potentially, in the Europa League, or I would normally say the FA Cup, but we've got Liverpool, so that ain't happening either. I hope we do see him this season, but yeah, I don't expect much more than that.
No, I think Ollie's saying the right things. And we spoke to Fabrizio Romano the other week, and he was saying he'd spoken to people at Atalanta who were raving about him, and he was surprised that Juventus or someone didn't come in for him. And he called it a really smart move by Manchester United. I know with add-ons it can go up to quite a bit of money, but he said it was a good move by Manchester United, a smart move to get in there before some of the Italian giants came in for him. And worth a punt, and hopefully he'll keep smiling for Manchester United. From one extreme to the other, the youngster who's just come in to...
An old man that's on the way out?
Well, not quite.
Oh, right.
Arguably the best player in the Premier League, who, bizarrely, has been getting a bit of grief because he didn't end Liverpool's 68-game unbeaten run at home single-handedly. and Ollie's actually had to come out and defend him. I'm talking about, obviously, Bruno Fernandes. This is one of the most bizarre stories I've ever had to sort of say out loud when talking about Manchester United, and I've been there for Phil Jones on corners, so I've seen it all. But, yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sticking up for him, and he was saying his form is very good, just been voted Player of the Month. He's not tired, no chance. He's one of the players that runs and covers the ground every single game. He's good at recharging his batteries. Talking about the free kick against Liverpool, he said if he scored that free kick, or his free kick, if it was just a little error on the ball when Luke put the cross in, he'd have been lauded as the best player in the Premier League. He's been immense. He's not tired, and if I ask him, he'll say there's no chance he's tired. He's expected to create goals, score goals, and sometimes the margins are against him. That free kick, I thought that was in. Some passes he plays are marginal, on or off. He's always on the verge of creating something when he loses the ball, and that's what he's been told to do. I want to see him play the passes he sees. I mean, are we through the fucking looking glass here or what?
He's a fraud, Jay. He's shit.
Shit, mate.
Since Bruno Fernandes arrived at Manchester United, he's done nothing but fuck all, if you ask me. He's turned up. Yes, he's got dozens of goals and assists. Yes, he's been, arguably the best player in the league. But all of that was a lie and a joke. And like I said, it's a piss take. He's the worst player in the Premier League. I don't know why we signed him. Biggest waste of money we've seen in a very long time, if you ask me.
I'm just thinking, right, to be fair, if you take goals and assists out of the equation, and performances,
and results,
and the fact he took us from 6 points off fourth to top of the league, if you take all that out of it,
which I'd do anyway,
and Player of the Month awards as well, you can just shit about them 4 and 12. You should be ashamed of yourself.
And a feel-good factor that's been created across the world as Man United fans.
Yeah, and that belief, and also the fact that he raises the game of those around him.
And a changing narrative about the whole club as a result of one man's performances. If you take all that away...
And the fact that he seems, him and Paul Pogba get on well now, linking up well as well, and playing well, and seems to get on and off the pitch. Move that out to one side.
What has he done?
Nothing. Literally nothing if you take all that out of the equation.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you think this is, why we're having these conversations? Because it's not, to be fair, right, I can say, oh, it's such and such a muppet on Talk Sport or whatever, or it's this one journalist, but it's not. It's a few people who are saying it. I've even seen United fans saying it, and I just don't get it. I genuinely feel lucky that we've got Bruno Fernandes, grateful that we've got a player who's taken this club in a short space of time from the doldrums to challenging for titles. And I just don't get it why people are going, oh, he's not, he's not all that, Bruno. No. What are you on about? Yeah, well, he is.
I said it on the preview, and I'll say a little bit and then move on to something else.
Go on.
People like to act as though they've discovered something that no one else can see. They're the smartest person in the room.
No, go on,
You all think that you all think Bruno's good? Fucking we'll see about that, mate. He's shit. Stat padding, which by the way is a term that's often used in other sports, traditionally American sports.
Fucking you and your American
basketball
sports,
is a big one for stat padding, where in sports where there are sort of between, depending on what the sport is, 30 points a game scored, or in basketball 100 points a game scored. Now in those sorts of sports, the idea of stat padding is possible because you purposefully play the ball through a certain player to allow them to basically hog all of the ball and score the majority of your team's points. And in a game where you score 100 points every other night, it's possible that you can allow one player to have an almost fictional status and an almost fictional sort of average score line, because you score so many points anyway. If he scores 30 of your 100 points, you can sort of manufacture that because there's also only 5 people on the court. In football, again, it's a term that's come across from social media. There's no such thing as fucking stat padding in football. You score 1 or 2 goals a game. And you can't, there's 11 players on a pitch. You can't put all of those purposefully through one player to allow him to get as many goals and assists as games. It doesn't exist. He takes penalties because he's one of the best penalty takers in the world. It's not like he scores 30% of them, but we let him have a go because of fucking stat padding. He's got over 90% penalty success rate at Manchester United. He is one of the best on the planet, so he takes penalties. That's a great trait that most people don't have. He gets tons of goals and assists. When it's not as though we score the same amount of goals as we used to, but now Bruno does it, we score more than we used to. He's increased our output. That isn't stat padding. It's fucking ridiculous. People are thick, is what they are, and they're looking for any way to look smarter than everyone else. It's bullshit. He's one of the best players in the league, and if you say anything else, you're a twat. Thank you.
Do you know what? I think it's very rare on this channel that I give a round of applause to someone, but
ridiculous.
For the sake of argument, I agree with everything he just said. Stop trying to be clever. Stop standing in front of your telly at home going, look like your fucking Andy Gray and Richard Keys in the 90s. No, he's not shit. He's amazing. And if you don't like it, what we can do is we can swap him for Pereira or put Lingard in, and we can go back to challenging for 4th spot or being 6 points off the top 4 and coming out of the game against Burnley 2-0 down crying because, you know, that was what was happening when Bruno wasn't here. Since he's come here, we've not lost since the Scousers was away from home. We've had our longest unbeaten away run.
Just a year
of not getting beaten away from home. We were top of the league until about 10 minutes ago. So let's just get a grip and stop, as Joe says, try to be clever and look for someone that's not here.
Especially when you're slagging off your own players.
What the fuck?
You're meant to be delusional about your own players. You're meant to think that Pereira could go on to be Pirlo. You're meant to think these things and then other fans laugh at you. You're not meant to be tweeting about your own club that your best player and maybe your best player in a decade is actually shit.
If you want to be delusional about Bruno, say he's the greatest midfielder you've ever seen.
Yes.
And even that can be a debate. Like, even that can cause an argument. But don't be delusional and go, he's shit.
Yeah.
Because that's more ridiculous than the one about him being the greatest midfielder you've ever seen. He's obviously not shit. And everything proves that. And as Joe just said there, you know, I just don't get it. It's just people trying to be a little bit too clever. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's hitting the nail on the head. And from what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said, again, me and Joe will talk about this on the preview baggers. Go and check the preview out. It's up on the channel. But it seems that Ole's alluding to the idea he ain't going to drop Bruno. Because some of us were saying maybe Bruno needs a rest, looking a bit knackered because despite the fact that, yes, we love him and he's wonderful and he's amazing, there are games when he is a little bit off the pace in terms of his very high standards. And maybe that is down to fatigue or whatever, but Ole's having none of it. And also, you know, you touched on it. He's our main man. He's the one that people kick and get mark and double up on. He's the one that everything is expected to come through a lot of the time. And he's one of the reasons that some other players, like Paul Pogba, are stepping up and doing well as well. So let's just stop with the Bruno slander because it's fucking stupid. Peter Kelly's in the super chat again. Who's on the watch along tomorrow, lads? I'll let you answer that, Joe.
We've got Stephen and Alex opening the show. Then we've got me, Adam, and Andy Tate on the main watch along. We'll have Stephen coming back at half time as well. And then we've got Fancam's review with me and you as well. And the Fancam's, of course, with Jay, Adam, Andy.
Why am I
sorry, not Jay. Steve, Adam, and Andy. So all of us basically is the answer to that. But on the main watch along, it'll be me, Adam McCullough, and Andy Tate.
Why am I on the end? Why am I on after the game?
Give you a bit of a rest and that.
Can I have a nap?
You can have a nap. You can have a nap.
Right. One final story before we wrap this up. Big man. Goals. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was talking about goals as well, or the lack of goals, because people like to have a whinge and a moan, don't they? Bruno's fault. Do you know what the Bruno thing as well is when they say the big six and they move it around as how he's not scored against the big six? And you say, what, the top six? No. What, the teams that finished in the top six last season? No. The big six that are in my head. All right, okay. Ole on lack of goals says, I think this season we've scored more goals, creating more chances than before. It's a matter of time until those margins that were against us, against Liverpool, tip our way. Again, people have pointed out that we haven't been as prolific in front of goal against some of the teams that historically are challenging for the title or are up there or thereabouts. We didn't score against Chelsea, we didn't score against Arsenal, we didn't score against the Scousers, we didn't score against City. We scored one against Spurs.
Yeah.
One
against Wolves, one against Burnley as well, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So people looking at and going, is there an issue there with goals? Ollie's saying, no, we're still scoring goals. You have to look at the level of the opposition as well. Against the Scousers, you know, Liverpool away, it's not like we usually go there and win fucking 5-0. City, we played City by the time they were starting to get their act together. So I'm not making complete excuses, because I do expect to win these games. I'm that guy who thinks we should beat these today. But are you worried? Are you concerned about the lack, in inverted commas, of goals, or do you think Ollie's got it right?
Absolutely
not.
As
Just said, fine margins.
I think, honestly, it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing that we're not scoring. But in the past, in recent seasons, what we are seeing now is a drop in form. And usually that coincides with 2 losses, a draw, a win, another draw, another loss, and a win. This time, our drop in form is seeing the continuation of a 12-match unbeaten streak, a continuation of a year away from home in the Premier League without being beaten. This is a drop in form for a good team. Under Ferguson, it would happen where you'd get 3-1, 4-0, 4-2, 4-1 in a row, and then you'd see 1-0, 1-1, 1-0, 1-1. Because if you want to stop being inconsistent, what you have to do is smooth out the dips. So what we're seeing here is a dip in form that is being smoothed out to the point that up until 5 minutes ago and anything other than a game in hand, we're still top of the league. This is a dip in form. And hopefully, instead of going down a little bit and down again, we see this dip in form and then we come back up again and we start scoring more goals. But this is the difference between an inconsistent team struggling to get the top 4 and a team that's challenging for a title, because when we have a dip in form, we still win most of our games, and all that happens is we have to rely on the defence to be good instead of blowing teams away. For me, this is a sign of the progress we've seen rather than a worry, personally.
I don't want to keep saying this because it just keeps happening this way. I agree with you, Joe. I just keep agreeing with you. Do you know what I mean? Just say something really stupid like, I don't know, Bruno Fernandes is shit. I don't like him. In the super chat, Aaron Quinn says, is it too soon to take Ethan Laird back? Oh, sorry, to take back Ethan Laird from MK Dons? That one clip of his game is mint. I don't know if you caught what Joe was saying earlier. Ethan Laird, it looked like he got a bit of an injury, but apparently it's not an injury at all tonight. It was just a bit of a dead leg. Yeah. Should be okay. Hopefully that move works out for him there.
I hope he plays loads. Apparently he's been. The idea is that he's going to be playing a lot of games for them. Yeah. So if he can do that, this is what you want in it. Yeah. You see that clip of Ethan Laird? Fucking hell, he looks good. Let's see 20 of them for the rest of the season. Then you bring him back, and then you've got a real contest for Wan-Bissaka. Hopefully he can stay fit and keep doing what he's doing.
Keep doing what you're doing.
AIFM says, Joe, you have to take the jacket off. United aren't top anymore.
I think he just wants to get used to strip.
Joe, you have to take your t-shirt and your
jeans
off.
Yeah, you have to take your pants off as well.
United aren't top anymore.
James Madison just done an interview.
Well, good luck.
He doesn't take his clothes off for anything less than £2. So just bear that in mind in future with your super chats. As Joe said, we've got the watch along coming up tomorrow. We've already got the preview up on the channel as well. So make sure you're checking that out. And tomorrow we'll have Howson, McCullough, Andy Tate, all the usual suspects back for the game when United can, I'm going to say hopefully, but will go back to the top of the Premier League when we play that there. Fulham. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Motti. Don't forget as well to check out the members section. We've just done a giveaway. We gave away a PlayStation 5. There's more goodies and giveaways on that section as well. If you join the members, we'll be giving stuff away, and there's a bit of extra content.
Members video coming out this week.
Members video coming out as well, and you'll have all the usual good stuff on the main channel as well. So thanks for watching.